go fast my whole life as a little kid. It's kind of a dream come true to be up close and personal here with the machines. And it's lights out and away we go!
Radio check. Another radio check.
I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me.
Please don't ask me any questions.
What's this stuff we got coming down? And what's the reason for you forever? I can't stand to see that smile on my face. Well, I need to put you in your place. So I got my name on it. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop me now. I'm on top of you trying to stop.
To understand Spygate, you have to go back further than 2007. Ferrari in the early 2000s was untouchable. Michael Schumacher, Ross Brawn, Rory Bryan, and Jean Todt. That group built one of the most dominant runs in Formula One history, winning 5 consecutive Constructors' Championships from 1999 to 2004. And standing right alongside them through it all was their chief mechanic, Nigel Stepney. He had been at Ferrari for 14 years. He genuinely believed that he had helped build that dynasty. And when Schumacher retired and that legendary group began to break apart after 2006, Stepney saw his moment.
At the end of this year, I've decided together with the team that I'm going to retire from racing.
Instead, Ferrari handed him a new title, Head of Team Performance Development. On paper, it sounded fine. In reality, it meant he was being pushed aside. No more races, no more frontline. Ferrari's polite way of saying his time at the top was over. For a man who had dedicated over a decade of his life to the team, it was a crushing blow. And it was the moment Nigel Stepney decided Ferrari was gonna pay for it.
I am looking at spending a year away from Ferrari. I'm not currently happy with the situation within the team. I really want to move forward with my career, and that's something that's not happening right now. Ideally, I'd like to move into a new environment here at Ferrari, but if an opportunity arose with another team, I would definitely consider it.
Stepney didn't walk away quietly. He started talking, specifically to a man named Mike Coughlin, McLaren's chief designer and someone Stepney trusted. Stepney had access to Ferrari's most sensitive internal documents, car schematics, technical reports, performance data, and financial information, all of which covered the 2007 Ferrari F2007, and he was willing to share it. What Stepney passed to Coughlin wasn't a few pages of notes. It was 780 pages of classified Ferrari documents, blueprints, live race strategy, technical specifications, the entire DNA of the 2007 Ferrari. Coughlin now had in his possession everything Ferrari had spent hundreds of millions developing. For McLaren, which was locked in one of the tightest championship battles in years with Ferrari, that information was worth everything. Mike Coughlin's wife Trudy walked into a copy shop and with 780 pages in hand and asked the clerk to scan them onto 2 CDs, completely ordinary requests, except for one thing. Printed on every single page was one of the most recognizable logos in the world, the prancing horse of a Ferrari. The clerk behind the counter happened to be a die-hard Ferrari fan. He noticed the logo, he asked Trudy for her name, and when she left, he Googled it. He found out she was McLaren's chief designer's wife. He then found Stefano Domenicali's contact information, Ferrari's sporting director, and sent him an email describing exactly what he had seen. Domenicali read it the next morning. Ferrari immediately launched an investigation. Trudy, on Mike's instructions, destroyed the original documents, but it was already too late. The countdown had started.
Are investigating the senior race engineer of Ferrari, Nigel Stepney, amid all kinds of allegations and rumors about sabotage and espionage as well.
The FIA opened a formal investigation and found McLaren in violation of Article 151C of the International Sporting Code, the rule that prohibits any act that undermines fair competition. At the first hearing in July 2007, they recommended no punishment. The case looked like it might just quietly disappear.
Then it exploded from within. Fernando Alonso had come to McLaren as a two-time world champion, expecting to be their clear number one driver. Instead, rookie Lewis Hamilton matched him from race one. Alonso became convinced that a British team with a British boss and British driver was quietly favoring Hamilton over him. At the Hungarian Grand Prix that summer, tensions boiled over completely when Alonso deliberately held Hamilton in the pit lane to ruin his qualifying lap.
But he's definitely putting the harder tyres on. There's Lewis Hamilton queuing up behind him, and have they raised the lollipop to let Alonso out? Yep, they want him out of there. No, Alonso's not getting on with it. Only a minute 40 to go. Is he blocking Hamilton here? Is that a bit of a tactic within the team there to give Hamilton a bit of a headache? I think it might well be. That's really, I don't know if he has, Damon. I think he deliberately did that.
Ron Dennis was furious, and Alonso received a 5-place grid penalty. But Alonso wasn't done. He went directly to Ron Dennis and threatened to release a collection of incriminating emails involving McLaren's test driver Pedro de la Rosa and the entire Spygate affair, straight to the FIA. Dennis didn't take the threat seriously, so Alonso followed through, and he sent everything.
The public reaction was immediate and divided. Ferrari fans felt completely vindicated. Their team had been robbed, and now McLaren was going to face consequences. McLaren fans were furious, arguing the punishment was politically motivated and disproportionate. Polls at the time showed fan trust in the FIA at an all-time low, with many believing the governing body had mishandled the case from the start by initially recommending no punishment at all.
Financial damage extended far beyond the $100 million fine. McLaren sponsors were immediately put in a difficult position. Their name was attached to the biggest scandal in the sport's history. Mercedes, which was McLaren's engine supplier and commercial partner at the time, bore a significant portion of that $100 million penalty. The relationship between the two companies never fully recovered. Within a few years, Mercedes had begun laying the groundwork for their own works team, a direct consequence of the fractured trust that Spygate created. By 2014, Mercedes had taken over as F1's dominant force, a dynasty that may never have happened without the events of 2007. On September 13th, the World Motorsports Council handed down its verdict. McLaren were disqualified from the 2007 Constructors' Championship and fined $100 million, the largest financial penalty in the history of the sports. The drivers Hamilton and Alonso were offered immunity in exchange for their cooperation and kept their individual points. Kimi Räikkönen ultimately won the Drivers' Championship for Ferrari by a single point. Renault was later found to have also owned McLaren's sensitive information, but escaped without punishment, a decision the FIA never fully explained, and one that only depended criticism of the governing body's consistency. As for the man who started it all, Nigel Stepney, was sentenced by an Italian court to 1 year and 8 months in prison for sabotage, industrial espionage, sporting fraud, and attempted serious injury. The FIA blacklisted him from the sport entirely, warning teams not to hire him without extensive background checks. He never returned to Formula One. On May 2nd, 2014, Nigel Stepney walked out of his car onto the M20 highway in Kent and onto the path of an oncoming lorry. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The man who lit the fuse on the biggest scandal in Formula One history left behind more questions than answers.